It starts with a destination. Your higher education journey begins here, in this classroom, in this residence hall, in this town. Outside the big city lights, opportunity shines with professors who know you and care. Like her, like him, like them. Here, small college experiences exist where you never thought to look before. This journey we take with new friends, exploring new places, and learning only in small class settings. Some of us find our path in music, in science, in health, while others find it in something even more hands-on. It is a place to arrive curious and to leave debt-free. Here, beginnings matter just as much as ends. So get out of your bubble, walk your path, find your way, and start your journey. Because no matter where you want life to take you, it starts at the smart higher education destination. It starts at Eastern Arizona College.
For the past 136 years, since 1888, Eastern Arizona College has been the destination for students to achieve their dreams. It is a place to live, learn, grow up, forge lifelong friendships, get a world-class education, and prepare for what's ahead. Because of each of you, EAC is the smart higher education destination. Together, we are dedicated to academic excellence. We offer degrees and certificates for 61% of the highest demand occupations in southeastern Arizona. Nearly 90% of our students who take technical skills tests pass and receive an industry-recognized credential. And more than 70% of EAC students who transfer to a university receive their bachelor's degree. We create a vibrant campus life experience that drives academic success. Our students actively participate in residence halls, clubs, nationally ranked athletic and esports teams, fine arts events, and a variety of recreational activities. We offer a top quality education focused on student success at a quarter of the cost of an Arizona university and at a fraction of the cost of a private trade school. At EAC, our students leave with little to no debt. And now, breaking new ground in the history of Eastern Arizona College, I'm thrilled to announce that EAC is the newest destination for affordable bachelor's degrees. EAC! 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 Ladies and gentlemen, a few weeks ago, the Higher Learning Commission approved EAC's Bachelor of Health Sciences and Bachelor of Music in Music Education degrees, which are set to start fall of 2024. That's this coming fall. We wanted to make this announcement to you first, the faculty and staff of Eastern Arizona College, before we announce it wide to the media and to the public, which is why we're doing it today. To shed light on these exciting new programs, please let me introduce Deans Aaron Burke and Pete Chittister.
Thank you, President Haney. This is exciting. The Bachelor of Science in Health Sciences degree makes things possible that never would have been possible before. Of the 90-plus excellent degree and certificate programs at Eastern Arizona College, more than 40 are in healthcare-related fields. This degree will allow students in these programs, along with pre-professional students and community members that are currently working in healthcare, to springboard their careers in healthcare leadership. The degree, the bachelor's degree in health sciences is more than just a degree. It's a smart investment in an even smarter future. Each month in the United States, there are more than 8,400 job postings for healthcare leadership positions. And every month, 12.5% of those, which is about 1,100, go unfilled because there aren't qualified personnel available. Astonishingly, this sector, the healthcare leadership sector, is expected to grow another 30% over the next 10 years. But one of the biggest reasons that this degree is such a smart investment for a smarter future is that the health sciences degree at Eastern Arizona College will cost approximately a fifth as much as a comparable degree at any of our university partners. Now, with the robust education required for healthcare services today, we'll actually include more than 13 prefixes in this degree program, which means this degree comes from all of you. And along with our incredible faculty and staff, we're super excited to announce the Bachelor of Science in Health Sciences.
Shortly after Eastern Arizona College was founded in 1888, a group of students came together and formed a band. And this band was the beginning of our performing arts programs. With over a century of history in our performing arts, we have a legacy that has truly made this a smart higher education destination for our students. And now, with the addition of the Bachelor of Music and Education, our music faculty members can offer students the instruction and experience that they need to join K through 12 music educators throughout the United States, where they will find hundreds, thousands actually, of jobs waiting for them. And there are a lot of reasons why our program is superior to the other programs out there. And one that I would like to mention is our performance opportunities. At universities throughout the United States, music majors have the opportunity to participate in performing ensembles during their junior and senior years. However, here at Eastern Arizona College, we will put them on the stage with our ensembles beginning their first semester. And this experience is invaluable. Over the past year and a half, the music faculty has worked tirelessly to make this dream a reality. I've been so impressed. I can't overstate the dedication and passion that they've invested in this. A good example is the performance that we're about to enjoy. Last Wednesday, I met with Chris McBride and Lori Dugan, and they asked if the music department could perform a musical number for this announcement. Knowing that we had a short timetable, I immediately went over to Jeff Despain's office, and of course, Jeff was here. He'd been here all week long preparing for the semester to come. We discussed the matter. He contacted Annie Bigler and Chase Moore, and they generously agreed under a very short notice to perform for us today. And this is really representative of the dedication, the passion, the commitment that we have in our performing arts, and indeed our fine arts faculty in general. I'm very honored to work with them. I know that their work ethics truly are emblematic of what it means to be an ideal team player. And with that introduction, I give you Annie Bigler and Chase Moore performing Goodnight Moon.
In the great green room, there was a telephone and a red balloon and a picture of a cow jumping over the moon. And there were 3 little bears and 2 little kittens, and a pair of mittens, and a little toy house, and a young mouse, and a comb and a brush, and a bowl full of mush, and a quiet old lady who was whispering, hush. Good night, room. Good night, moon. Good night, cow, jumping over the moon. Good night, light, and the red balloon. Good night, bears. Good night, chairs. Good night, kittens. Good night, mittens. Good night, cocks, and good night, socks. Good night, little house. Good night, mouse. Good night, comb, and good night, brush. Good night, nobody. Good night, mush. And good night to the old lady whispering, good night, stars. Good night, air. Good night, noises everywhere. Good night. Good night. Good night, noises everywhere.
That was amazing, Annie. Let's give her another round of applause. What a way to start the morning. That was just absolutely beautiful. And that's what we are here to announce. That sort of talent is here at EAC because we've got such absolutely wonderful faculty and staff who can inspire and draw out of students that sort of talent. So it is just such a pleasure to be here with you this morning. President Haney has consistently reminded us that recruitment is everybody's business, right? It's each of our responsibility to help the college grow and progress. And each of the programs that have been highlighted today, these new 4-year bachelor programs, are going to be such a fabulous way for EAC to grow. The students that have come forward, even before they can register, has truly been inspirational. We know that we have landed on 2 fabulous programs because, as Dean Burke and Dean Chittister can attest, and their faculty can attest, the students have been coming out of the woodwork saying, when can we register? When are these programs going to start? So we are here today to ask each of you to help to get out the good word. They will be able to start registering in March, but we want now in January to start getting out that message, to let students know, potential students know, that these programs will begin in the fall semester. And so we are asking each of you to help us communicate this. So we've got this from marketing. We've got this marketing packet. Each of you will receive this packet today at lunch. And in the packet, we've got a notepad, we've got some fact sheets, there's some really fun stickers, there's a pen, all sorts of things that you can pass out to those that you think might be interested. In addition, today, you are going to get this. I think President Haney did a striptease last year, so now it's my turn. This is all I'm going for. As you can see, I was not designed to be a model. I don't really do the steps very well. But each of you will receive a t-shirt, and we're going to ask that you wear that t-shirt to a kind of press conference pep rally that will be held a week from Thursday. That's the 18th of January, 11 a.m. It will be at the gym. And we ask that you come out, wear your t-shirt, and help us to celebrate the beginning of our first 2 4-year bachelor programs. So thank you very much. And at the end, before lunch, I will explain how you're going to get these materials. So that's the suspense. You just have to wait until then, and I'll give you those details. Back to you, President Haney.
Tall and tan and young, lovely girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes each one, she
Okay, that song was not my choice. That was Lori Dugan. Thank you, Dugan. Well, welcome back, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be back here with you on campus after the break, the Christmas break. I hope everyone had a fantastic break with your family and your friends. You know, for the administrators and staff, we had about a little over a week off. For the faculty, it was about 3 weeks off. So it was an abbreviated break for all of us, certainly not a summer break. But I was thinking about this a few weeks ago about, so what did everyone do over Christmas break? Where did you go? So I was wondering, who here traveled? I know we have some travelers here among us. Who here traveled the farthest over the break? I would like to know, the reason for this is this. My wife is from Gilbert. She thinks Gilbert is a small town. And it is not a small town. I'm from Thatcher, grew up here. Thatcher is a small town. And yet, people from the Gila Valley seem to have this odd reach across the country and even beyond. And so the joke between us is that we can go almost anywhere and we will run into someone that has a connection to the Gila Valley, and we can go almost anywhere and never run into anyone that she's ever met in her entire life. We can go to Gilbert, to her neighborhood, and still not know anyone that she's ever met. But the same is not true for people from Graham County, the Gila Valley, because they're everywhere. So who here traveled the farthest over the Christmas break? Washington, D.C. Would someone do me a favor and pull out Google and do a search from 615 North Stadium Avenue to Washington, D.C. and tell me how many miles that is. Washington, D.C. Wait, who traveled farther than Washington, D.C.? Hawaii? Hawaii is probably farther than Washington, D.C. Blake? That was Hawaii? You were Hawaii. Anyone does anyone... Eric? St. Lucia. How far away is St. Lucia? Well, way far. I got to have more specifics than way far. Is it farther away than Hawaii? It is. Tell me, what did you look it up? I want to know the miles. I want to know how far away it is from campus. 2054. Did anyone travel farther away than St. Lucia? 2,054 miles. Wait, I heard that voice.
That was me, 2054. I suspect.
Oh, so where did you travel to? Port Chester, New York. So give me St. Lucia. You want to look that up? Because I have a prize for the person that traveled the farthest. This is a Hershey Symphony bar that is extra creamy milk chocolate with almonds and toffee. It doesn't give miles? Hawaii is 2952. Blake, I think, until you tell me. That's St. Lucia? 3,322. I think you get the prize, Eric. Congratulations. Now, Blake, I feel bad for you because Hawaii is still pretty far, so I'm going to give you a prize too. Now, I'm not going to chuck this at you because I would miss. Would someone, yeah, I don't trust you. Marco, would you go give that to Blake for me? So, okay, so who's next after Hawaii? I've got one more. Wait. Where was it? Cancun. Okay, well, I'll give it to you, Cancun. Now, would you, I'm going to trust you. This is just extra creamy milk chocolate because it's not quite as far. No almonds. It was to Dorian Nelson right there. Okay, so I was telling my wife that I was going to do this and buy these chocolate bars for the people that traveled the farthest. And she said, well, that doesn't seem right because the people that went to the coolest places also get a prize. Well, I think I traveled the least far of anyone. I didn't leave my house. I never left. So in my opinion, that was the best break ever, is not having to leave my house. I could stay home and relax. So I feel bad for you travelers. So this hopefully will make up for that horrible experience in Hawaii, St. Lucia that you had. But welcome back. It is exciting to be back with you, exciting for a new year, exciting for 2 new bachelor's degrees. I can't tell you how pivotal this announcement is in the history of the institution. I've been at EAC for 23 years, almost 24 years. I was a student here at EAC, and for the entire time that I've been associated with the college, either as a student or as an employee, I have consistently been asked about bachelor's degrees at EAC and when this was going to happen. And this was even years ago when that was such a far-reaching possibility that it didn't seem like it would ever happen. It came close about 15 years ago, but we didn't cross the finish line back then, and the stars aligned a couple of years ago when we had the right legislators, we had the right governor, and we had the right people in place and the right support across the state that made this happen. So I'm excited about the future of EAC and this particular announcement. So I'm excited, as you can tell, but I'd like to give you just a few updates, some reminders, actually, a review, if you will, of what we covered in the fall Monstrous Symposium, because I want to keep this in front of you so that you don't forget. I want you to remember and to be reminded of the framework that we as a district executive team, what we use to make decisions at EAC. If you'll remember, and maybe nobody does, but that's why I'm here to remind you of this. We, over the past summer, summer of 23 in July, the district executive team, we did an exercise using the book called The Advantage, which is written by Patrick Lencioni. And he has a framework that he calls a playbook. And it is a series of 6 questions that we answer as a team. It doesn't have to be an executive team. It could be any team at any organization, at any level of an organization. 6 questions that need to be answered in order to understand your institution, your organization, your business, to be able to make decisions that will strengthen that organization and that place where you are. The first question, well, these are the 6 questions. Why do we exist? How do we behave? What are our core values? What do we do? How will we succeed? What is most important right now? And who must do what? So these are the answers to the first 5 of those questions. So why do we exist is really a look at the reason that we exist, the reason that we're even here. And Lencioni suggests that we need to go back to the founding of the institution to really understand why it even started in the first place. So we went back 135 years, this was back in July, and we looked at a lot of information about the founding of the institution. You think about EAC back in 1888, I forget, 21 years before air conditioning, I looked that up at one point. So in the dusty, dry desert of the Gila Valley at the time, the modern pioneers that came to the valley, they started farming, they started building adobe homes, and they also built a school, an academy for their children. I don't believe it was just to get their kids out of the house, because they probably needed the kids for farming. I think there was another motivation, another reason why they decided that one of the things that they would do at the time is start an academy, a school. And this is what we came up with. And this, again, is based on research, based on looking back at the history of the college, and that is to lift people to greater accomplishments, people meaning our students, of course, but also the community in which the academy is located, the school is located. The second question is how do we behave? What are our core values? These are the stated values of the EAC. They define the college's personality. They are at the heart of our identity. They do not change over time, and they must already exist. And they cannot be contrived. These are not aspirational characteristics or qualities. These are who we already are. And we have to understand what those characteristics are and then use them and promote them. And interestingly, we must allow ourselves to be punished for living these values and accept the fact that some employees will sometimes take these values too far. The values are that we are devoted, generous, and passionate. And we further refined what those values are. Devotion meaning being caring, consistent, stable, loyal, encouraging, and generous, being helpful, being uplifting, being caring, and that we are passionate, being enthusiastic, hardworking, forward-thinking, innovative, and positive. There's an interesting story in the book that Lencioni tells. I may have told this last year, and that is that there is an airline, and he didn't say which airline, but I think you can probably guess that one of their core values is humor. And the CEO of the airline a number of years ago got a complaint letter from one of its customers that complained about the levity of the employees, the levity of the flight attendants and the other people in the airplane that were employees of the company, of the airline, and felt like that levity was taken a little bit too far, that they weren't focused on safety and the gravity of flight, I guess. And the response from the CEO to that customer was simple: "We will miss you." That is a great example, I think, a very powerful example of a company, of an organization that is willing to be punished for living what it considers one of its core values. Now, that's not necessarily our core value, but it is for that airline. And so these are our core values, that we feel that we are devoted, that we are generous, and that we are passionate at EAC. These are not aspirational. This is who we generally already are. What do we do? This is the college's business function, the basic activity of the college. And that is that we provide education and experiences that transform our stakeholders. So not just our students, which I think is the obvious one, but also our community, but also our governing board members, our taxpayers, our legislators. These are this is the basic function of EAC, and this is what we do. How will we succeed? These are the college's strategic anchors. They represent the college's strategy. They are the framework that we use to make all of our decisions as an institution, that we optimize our resources, we offer valuable and unique student experiences, and we foster positive relationships among our stakeholders. These are the things that again, as I said, that we use to make all of our decisions. They are, interestingly, also very much in line with what I have always felt was the college's pillars of student success, community engagement, and fiscal responsibility. And the final question that I'm going to address today, or remind you of today, is what is most important right now. This is what Lencioni calls the college's or the team's rallying cry. When push comes to shove, when resources are tight, what is the one thing, one project, one thing that we are working on that must rise to the top? It's intended to be something that is short-term, 3 to 6 months in length, or maybe a little bit longer, maybe 12 months. And what we came up with after looking at a long list of what our projects were that we were working on, was a successful ERP implementation. And that is further defined by looking at what our objectives are for a successful implementation of the ERP. Does anyone not know that we are implementing a new ERP? Oh, Heather. Oh, Heather. If I had given you a chocolate bar, I would have taken that chocolate bar away. Because you, more than anyone, know that we are right in the middle of a very lengthy and time-intensive implementation of Anthology, which is our new enterprise resource planning system. The defining objectives of the implementation are these: that we communicate to all of our internal stakeholders, that we clearly define what our business processes are, which will be affected by the new ERP, preparing for needed integrations of other modules or functions that are absolutely necessary to the ERP, that we ensure that all of our end users are trained, and some of that training will happen a little bit later this morning, that we structure our functional areas in a way that will support the rollout of Anthology and the use of Anthology, that we give our subject matter experts the necessary resources to be able to use the system, and that we maintain with extreme discipline no new projects and no functions and no customization of the system, but rather we use the system as it is designed so that we can gain the power of that system. So what we did is look at all of our projects and priorities, and we've done this every year as a district executive team. We've looked at what our projects and priorities are for each year, and we've tried to update the college community, the faculty and staff, of what we're looking at. The implementation of the ERP is at the top. It is right now the most important thing for us. When, again, as I said, when push comes to shove, we are going to focus on ensuring that Anthology is successful, the implementation of it. And right now we are 6 months away from the go live date, July 1. Now, many of you probably aren't really involved in that implementation, but there are a number of you that are, the core team members and many others that have been very hard at work over the past year and will continue to be hard at work over the next 6 months to ensure that we are successful. And crossing our fingers, all will go well, and we'll be able to flip that switch on July 1st and have a new system. The other projects and priorities that are on our list are these, and again, these should not be new to you. I showed these to you in the fall. The next one on the list is an evolution of our strategic operating budget. That is a budget that is more than just a state requirement, but rather something that we can use to make decisions that are strategic and will forward the goals of the college. An evolution of our compensation package, our full-time load calculations, part-time pay benefits, that is still very well underway. Implementation of the master facilities plan, that is happening right now in this building and the building right next to us, to the west of us. As you probably went through the maze of drywall and plastic going to the restrooms and getting food this morning, you'll notice that we are in the middle of renovating the activity center. We're also doing a renovation of the commons area of the Mark Allen Hall. Now, this project is anticipated to be completed by May of this year, just in time for our summer camps. We're really looking forward to what this is going to look like. Curiously, the Mark Allen Hall was dedicated in September of 1964. So 60 years after the dedication of the building, we will be rededicating that building, another ribbon cutting of the new Mark Allen Hall. And we are taking that commons area back, in many ways, architecturally back to the original look and feel of Mark Allen Hall. I think everyone will be really excited, with many modern updates in terms of the student experience, moving our housing offices into that area as well. Here in the activity center, we are renovating the Gila Hanks Cafe, opening it up to give it more of a food court-like feel and experience for our students and our community. You probably know that the food here is amazing now, and we have been inundated with people, with community members, with customers who are taking advantage of Gila Hanks Cafe and the amazing work that John Nichols and his staff do. So we're opening that up, giving more seating, a much more pleasant and modern experience for our students. We are also moving the campus store into what was the Quiet Lounge just across here in front of the foundation. We are also creating in the old space that was the campus store an updated esports arena, if you will, or a space for the esports team. And then we are also updating the Monster Pit, the game room, creating some exterior entrances to the game rooms so that students have an easier access in and out of the building. Trying to make this building, the Student Activity Center, more of a student-focused activity center so that it is welcoming to students and not just our community. Continuing work on refining the Microsoft 360 implementation. 4-year degrees, we are excited again today to announce that the Higher Learning Commission did approve our 2 bachelor's degrees. They are, we're so excited about this change and this update and the direction of EAC. We are still, I believe, waiting for the Department of Education for their approval for financial aid. Sharon Montoya, somewhere here in the room. Right here, DOE, we're waiting for DOE. Yes, okay, good. Thank you for saying yes. We're working on the audit of forms and processes. Gila County, as you all know, we are winding down our operations in Gila County. We will formally be out of the county June 30th of next year, 2025. We're working to ensure that all of our students in Gila County can successfully complete, or at least have the opportunity to complete, their programs that they started last semester. We are also researching housing opportunities for our students. You probably also know that there is a housing crunch in the area, frankly, across the country. And we are looking for ways that we can increase our capacity for student housing on campus and looking into the community as well. The final list on our list, or the final project rather, on our list of projects and priorities is the expenditure limitation. And we will be talking about that in just a little bit. Frankly, when the expenditure limitation, many of you may not even understand or know that term. When that came up as on the list, came up to the list, it almost displaced the implementation of the ERP as the thematic goal, because it has become so important. And we'll explain that more about that in just a little bit. A couple of other really exciting announcements, and that is over the Christmas break, we received word that we received the Rural Post-Secondary and Economic Development Grant. This is a $2.2 million grant from the United States Department of Education that will enable us to create an EAC program that we are calling the Targeting Rural Accessibility to College and Career, or TRAC program. This started 9 days ago, January 1st, will run for 4 years. It will enable us to create up to six new positions here at the college to complete 3 different initiatives to enhance our outreach to our rural students across Arizona and New Mexico, to create an actual career service center on campus for our students and for the community, to connect industry partners with our students with apprenticeships and other job opportunities, and to establish a formal early college program that will enable us to reach out further into the high schools to create concurrent enrollment opportunities for students that do not take away from high school's average daily minutes, their requirement for students, so that so no one is hurt by this. The high schools and the students, the high schools and the colleges can both benefit from this program, but primarily the benefit will go to our students in our local high schools. Really excited about this program. You'll be hearing a lot more about this from Charmaine Chittister in the grants office in an upcoming newsletter. So hats off to Charmaine and her staff for really an amazing job in applying for this grant and receiving this $2.2 million for EAC. Thank you. Finally, the last thing, and this is actually going to be a long thing, and that is the expenditure limitation. Can I get the district executive team to come up here while I introduce this concept? The expenditure limitation, if you don't know what it is, back in 1980, so what is that, 44 years ago, Arizona voters approved an amendment to the Arizona Constitution that by what the name of it says, limited how much cities, counties, towns, and community college districts can spend. They took the expenditures from the year 1979, and so I added, I don't know if it makes any sense, but I added some pictures from 1979 up here to kind of give you a sense for how long ago this was. The amendment to the Constitution gave every community college district, city, town, county, the ability to spend no more than what they spent in 1979. What was our limit? Is it 4 million? $4.5 million. So EAC back in 1979, our expenses were $4.5 million. What this constitutional amendment said was that going forward, forever, EAC can no longer spend anything more than $4.5 million. That's a pretty scary thing. Gratefully, somewhat gratefully, the writers of this amendment to the Constitution thought long and hard and decided, you know what, expenses are probably going to increase more than what they were in 1979. So they determined that there were probably 2 factors that would cause increases to go up, that they would allow college districts to... I wonder how many times we're going to hear that this morning. Are you wearing cleats? Did you step on that? 2 factors that would allow community college districts to increase their spending. The first of which was inflation. They thought, well, inflation is going to happen. We know inflation. This was in the 1980, the earliest of the 1980s, when inflation was running rampant. And they decided, well, inflation would affect the ability to spend. And so they decided that they would allow an inflationary factor to increase that limit for community college districts. However, they didn't give us the consumer price index. Rather, they created their own. Arizona created its own factor. It's actually ironically called the deflator, which is much more conservative than the CPI. That they said that would be what we would increase the college district's ability to spend across the state. The other factor that they decided would probably also affect expenses at a community college was student population. So they got together, the brightest minds in the state of Arizona, and decided, well, as student population increases, then probably expenses will also increase. So we'll allow for for increase in student population to also increase that limit that the community college would be able to spend. So those two factors over the next 44 years have allowed that expenditure limitation to increase from $4.5 million to, what is it now, Heston? $34 million right now. The challenge with this is that expenses actually do go up higher and faster than what that inflation factor that the state allows and what the student population change or increase also allows. And so we are now up against that expenditure limitation to be able to legally spend the money. The challenge of that is that there are penalties associated with exceeding your expenditure limitation. And it is a exponential penalty. So the more you exceed that limitation, the higher that expenditure or that penalty goes, to the point at which it will shut you down as an institution. The penalty is so high that we won't have enough money to pay the penalty. And then we cease to operate or exist as a community college. This is not to scare you, but this is something that is important to the institution. I think it's also important to understand that we are not the only institution that is facing this challenge, this problem. Maricopa Community College this year is running into the exact same situation. A few years ago, Pima Community College had the exact same situation where they started cutting significant programs. They started cutting campuses, closing campuses in Tucson to try to catch up with their expenditure limitation. There is a solution. Gratefully, there is a solution, and that's what we're here to talk about today. That solution is, and this solution is actually the sole solution, the only solution that is in the language of the constitutional amendment, and that is a district can go to its voters, meaning Graham County voters, and ask for our expenditure limitation base to be reset. Go back to 1979, add something to what was the base at the time, and that would flow through to today, allowing us to increase our ability to spend. A couple of other important things before I turn the time over to Troy. You're going to come up here and explain some numbers to us. And that is that this does not affect our ability to levy a tax. They are unrelated. Now, the reason for the expenditure limitation is to, it sounds silly because it's so obvious, is to limit spending. That's the reason for the amendment to the Constitution. However, they didn't anticipate the significant increase in costs that would affect districts, cities, towns, and counties as well, that exceeded the factors that they allowed. So the reason for it is just to limit how much we could spend. It does not limit how much we can tax. We are already limited to how much we can tax. There is already a law that does not allow us to increase that levy by more than 2% a year. And we are already at our legally maximum allowable levy. We can continue to increase that, the governing board, by 2% every year. The other limit is, frankly, our governing board, a 5-member elected board, who is the entity that approves tax levy increases. So this is unrelated to our taxing ability. It is only related to our spending ability. We have funding. We have enough money in the bank. The legislature continues to fund us as well. Gratefully and generously, our local taxpayers also fund EAC. This amendment limits how much of that money that we already have we can spend. And so we're going to talk to you a little bit today about this challenge, about the solution and what you can do to help this solution, and what we're going to do as an institution and hopefully as a community to give us some relief to be able to continue to grow, to offer new programs, to build new buildings, and to offer amazing bachelor's degree programs like we mentioned today. So, Troy, why don't we come up? Try not to step on any balloons as you come up. And I'm going to turn the mic over to you and also the screen over to you. Troy's got some projections that he'd like to show you. You know, and as far as accountants go, Troy is actually pretty interesting. Probably one of the more interesting accountants I've ever met in my life. So this is all yours. And then we'll be over here answering questions.
This is the good night moon of finance. So I really hope you guys are. I don't know how to work the microphone very well. I've got a thumb drive. I don't know how to. Oh, there we go. On top. Okay, here we go.
You don't know how to do this, do you?
Well, I'm new to this. I don't know if you guys know, but if you check out page 7 of the yearbook, kind of new. Have you checked out page 7?
I haven't checked out page 7.
Page 7 of the yearbook.
Well, that, I don't know what.
Okay, this is.
I got
think,
Marcia
where
at transfer old to new.
No, yeah, you don't want that one. That one's, this is, we'll get there. Here we go. Just not everybody's on page 7. There's a select few. All right, we got finance. That's the district executive team. I'm just saying 3 years in a row, I feel like it's deliberate at this point. I feel like it's deliberate. All right, we're going to get this set so that we can kind of speak to it. So get comfortable. The next 45 minutes, we're going to really dive deep into the expenditure limitation. No, I do think that we'll take about 15 minutes. We're super fortunate that President can speak very fluently to the expenditure limitation. It is what you're going to find, and what we found through looking into it, is that there's just like a fundamental flaw in the formula, in that they don't take into consideration the mix of the cost that we experience in 2024 versus 1980. Because I don't know about you, but when I was 1 year old in 1979. I didn't have an iPhone in my hand. Like, I didn't have a computer in my hand, but everybody in this room has at least one, some of us two. And so you see that the costs really do outpace what the government has established that we could spend. So I think fundamentally the idea is sound. I don't think we're arguing that, but the problem is the formula. So I'll recapture the formula and its simplicity, and then we'll move on to our current environment, what we're faced with, and what we see, and then what the solution is. And again, President has been very clear about what that is. But there's some of us who do accounting by colors, and that's what this is. So the first part is the expenditure limitation formula itself. And Todd mentioned the base was set in 1980, but remember, it was actually using the 1979 data. So in 1979, it cost the institution $4.5 million to operate. Okay. We did not have the #1 nursing program, right? Nursing program. We did not have the IT costs that we have now. Our makeup was quite different in 1979. And as Todd mentioned, okay, we know we're going to have inflation, and you can see right here's this inflation factor, they call it. Now, this is their formula. I didn't make this up, by the way. I'm not this creative. But when you look at it, it's the GDP implicit price deflator. That's not inflation. It's not full inflation. So they depress our ability to spend in that component. And then they do give us an adjustment for headcount, right? FTSE. And in 1979, our FTSE was 1329. Don't be confused. Our FTSE is not 3,072. That's a 5-year average, which is one of the components they allow us to use. So that's the formula, and that's its basic form, right? And that drives how much we can spend. So for instance, in 2023, that formula said, okay, well, you're allowed to spend $34.4 million, okay? Now, not every cost is subject to that limit. For instance, capital, like large capital project, building a building, buying land, because the government says, well, if you're building and buying lands, you're gonna expand your FTSE. And so it's fundamentally, like, I'm okay with that. But just so you're clear, not every expense is subject. Now, real quick on the FTSE, they say, well, you can use your last year's FTSE in the formula, and that's really good if you're in a period of increasing enrollment. But if you're not in a period of increasing enrollment, right, then they allow us to use a 5-year average. So that's what this little section is here. You'll see we've got this 5-year average, and you can see that it starts dropping off, and that's not great. I'm going to tell you right now, you don't want your FTSE to drop when it comes to the expenditure limitation, okay? So those are the basics. Now, what we wanted to do is find out, well, how is this going to affect us going forward, right? And you can see what really happens is that last year, so our last fiscal year, they said we could spend $34 million. Well, we actually spent $37 million. So we spent $2.5 million over. Don't fear, we have this carry forward allowed, right? So in the past years when we were under, the government says, okay, well, you can stash that fake money aside and use it when you are over to offset, so there's no penalty. So last year we used $2.5 million of our $36 million carry forward. So now we're at 34. Well, if you look next year, this year, right, our FTSE again drops, our average, right? Goes from 3,000 to 2,800. That's a problem because we can't spend as much. So they're saying, well, you can only spend 31 million. But guess what? We're going to spend 38. Now that 38 is just the 2023 number, our baseline spending inflated by 3%. Does anybody know what inflation is right now? It's not 3. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm trying to be somewhat conservative in this. But what I'm saying, if you just take 3%, we're going to spend $38 million. All right. So we're going to be $6 million over. Same thing the following year, you can see FTSE drops again, right? It's just, that's what's happening, right? Our average drops. And so the government is saying, well, you can only spend 29 million, but now I got another 3%, unless of course, everybody wants to, offer up their programs to be cut. No? Okay. So we're going to assume that we're going to spend that amount, right? So now we're at 39. Now we're $10 million over. And you can see what's happening to this carry forward, right? The carry forward is being consumed until we get to 2025, 26. And then in 27, they're saying you can only spend 28. We're going to spend 40. We're 13 million over. Now, here's the penalties that President was talking about. If you are less than 5% over spending, the penalty is the amount that you're over. So for instance, this last year, if this was 5%, our penalty would have been $2.5 million. That is actual cash that has to give them back to the state. Now they said, okay, well, if you're 5 to 10% over, that penalty is 3 times the amount that you're over. So if you're 2.5 million over, and it happens to be 6% over, right? What's 2.5 times 5? I can't do that kind of math, but you can see it's pretty big. Then they say, well, if you're greater than 10% overspending, which is what we're going to see here, we're actually 46% over. The penalty becomes 5 times the excess. So the penalty that we incur in that year is $65 million, right? It's designed to put a stop to it and to shut you down, right? So we're really not gloom and dooming. Like, this is just the environment that we're in, right? And President mentioned we're not the only college dealing with it. Maricopa is dealing with it. Pima has dealt with it. It's a fundamental problem in the formula. Now, as President also said, we do have a solution. So don't fear. Here we go, right? Here's the solution. Really, the option we have is to increase that base, right? 4.5 million is the base. And for simplicity's sake, right, at a minimum, what we would probably recommend is to the voters is that, hey, allow us to double that base, right? So if we just double this base by 2, I got to do number lock. Okay, you can see that that base becomes 9 million. Now in 26, 27, there is not a problem. And the problem doesn't creep its ugly little head again until, it keeps going somewhere, 2058. But notice it becomes a problem again. Why? Because the formula is messed up, right? So for us, if we just say double it, I don't know that there's anybody in this room that's going to face the problem again. But guess what? The problem comes back. We can't get rid of it, okay? But what we'd like to do, right, just for instance, if you decide to maybe just go 2.5 times the base, and again, we're not asking to increase taxes. We just want to spend the money that we already have. Well, then that problem gets pushed out to 2071. Yay! But guess what? It still becomes a problem at some point in time. So that constantly is reset, right? So the colleges are going to face with the only real solution is FTSE. And what I did when I was running this, if we get FTSE to 3,200 and it's consistently 3,200, then really it doesn't become a problem. The problem that we have, our dorms are full, right, Candy? 4 dorms. right? And we don't have really other housing here on property, so we can't even really get to 3,200. I put a cap on this model at 3,000, right? Unless we go online. So there's a lot of assumptions, but this is its basic, right? And so the solution is, right, is that we ask the voters, you, right, when it gets put on the ballot, please go vote for it so that we can be allowed to spend the money that we already have sitting in the bank, right? Just for record, and you can look at our financials, there's $50 million sitting in the bank. But the state is saying, you can't spend the money the way that you and your constituents would like to spend it because of this formula. That's EL in its infancy.
Thank you, Troy.
No, thank you.
You're a fantastic accountant.
I feel like
You know
it.
that?
I'm
going to go look at page 7, and I'm
Yeah.
going to have you autograph
I
page
would-
7 for me.
You know what? I'll autograph anybody, Sharon, especially your page 7. I will. I probably. That's right. That's right.
So the discussion about the expenditure limitation, thank you, Troy, for
You're welcome.
that great explanation. I don't want you to leave because you may be asked to answer some
Sure.
more specific questions on those numbers. But I think there's a couple of key points here, and Heston really understands this. Keith understands this from a legislative perspective as well. The key is that we can't cut ourselves out of this challenge. We don't want to cut ourselves out of this challenge. Because if you think about it, unlike what Pima did, closing campuses, if we started cutting programs to cut our expenses, then you start losing students. And students is one of the key factors of the expenditure limitation. We don't want to do that. We actually want to increase enrollment. Enrollment is one of our primary drivers, just institutionally. So we can't cut our way out of the program. As I said, we don't want to. But we do want to, one of our other pillars is fiscal responsibility. We do want to be responsible with the dollars that we are entrusted, both the state dollars, the local tax dollars, as well as our tuition dollars that we receive from our students. So we want to maintain that responsibility level, but we don't want to just cut so that we can get below the limitation for those other reasons. So that's one of our challenges. Heston, what would you add to this?
Just the same, even if we were to cut to get under it, the problem would just catch up to us, as Troy mentioned, but much quicker. So let's say we cut out an entire program, that might buy us an extra 2 years. And now in 2 years, we're going to have to cut another and another until the entity doesn't exist as it does now. I was speaking to Maricopa College's chief business officer on Thursday. And it's interesting because everything with them is exactly the same, just there's a lot more zeros in their numbers. They have $400 million of carry forward, and they will blow through it in 3 years. To get under the limit, they would have to cut $100 million a year, which is not one college, not campus, 2 colleges. So that means Scottsdale Community College and Gilbert Community College literally go away. So it really is this kind of death spiral if you try to cut yourself out of it. And that's what happened at Pima. Instead of addressing it as they saw it on the horizon, they tried to cut themselves out of it, and they shut down campuses, programs, and it will take them 10 years to build back what they had. And we just don't want to go there because we like where we're going. The irony is we are in a period of growth after what happened with COVID, and we have more money now in the bank than we've ever had, and now suddenly we're being told you can't spend it. And it's not a person telling us, it's, as Troy referenced, it's a formula telling us, which is really frustrating because a formula doesn't have any common sense. It doesn't take any economic factors into consideration. The other thing that Troy mentioned that's interesting is, yes, if we could grow FTSE up to 3,300, but that means growing FTSE up to 3,300 without increasing costs at all. Well, that's not possible. Most of our programs where we add, the bachelor's program will be similar. It outpaces the expenditure limit because you spend more than the capacity you gain from increasing that enrollment. So it's a zero-sum game where there really isn't another alternative to fix the problem unless we are willing to turn this institution really into a governing board that would hire somebody else to come in and teach online classes and maybe do some dual enrollment.
So the good news is that there is a solution, and the solution is actually built in. It's by design, built into the Constitution. EAC actually addressed this problem about 15 years ago when we first lost Gila County. The enrollment dropped significantly because originally we were able to count all of the footsie from Gila County, and then when the provisional district took over, that footsie was no longer ours, and so the statute allows for a significant change like that to allow us to reset our base at that time. So back, what was it, 2006, Brent McEwen and the administration at that time successfully argued to reset our base. That was different than going to the voters. It was a different clause in that amendment that allowed them to reset the base. But that took care of the problem for about, well, the past 17, 18 years. And here we are again with the same challenge at this time. So as Troy mentioned, regardless of where we reset the base, at some point, the college will have to face the challenge again. Every college, every city, every town. I was just Googling this last night, and I found that the city of Flagstaff, just random search, city of Flagstaff has addressed this 3 times since 1980, 1988 in 2005, and then again just last year, 2022. They've gone to their voters to reset their base so that they had the capacity to spend the money that they already had. So this is not going to go away. This is not something that we can ask the legislature to sweep in and fix for us because it's not a legislative issue. It's the constitutional issues that only the voters can address. So again, with the solution, Keith, can I ask you to address the solution?
Sure. Underlying what you both said, again, there is only one solution. The Constitution allows us to do one thing, and that is to go to the voters and reset the limit. It actually is a very good solution. It's a good way to do it. The framers of this designed this so that our governing board is responsible to our voters here. And if we show that we're using the resources wisely, they're the ones that get to decide that we can keep using those resources. In fact, the legislature is specifically cut out of that. They don't have any way to mess with what the voters decide. So we anticipate that probably in late spring, that our governing board will vote to put this on the ballot. They get to decide how much to raise that. I think we're looking at, as Troy said, suggesting maybe doubling it or slightly more, but that is a local decision that they will put on the ballot in November. It just requires a simple majority of the residents who vote. And if 50% of the people voting +1 vote to adopt the new limit, then on January 1st, that becomes effective. And because it's a constitutional issue, it can't be changed. The legislature can't lower it. It can't revert back. And so as bad as it is, if for some reason it didn't pass and the college essentially goes away, all it takes is this simple majority of our friends and neighbors and our employees here. And it fixes it in a way that can't be undone. And so we'll watch for the board to trigger that election. We have talked to some of our partners already in the community. We've met with the vice president in Phoenix of Freeport-McMoran. They have verbally told us they are supportive of this. They want this to happen. We've met with the board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce here. They said they want that to happen. They will be actively involved in doing that. Our own legislators, Senator Gowan, in fact, he's one who facilitated some of the meetings that we have had, as well as Representative Griffin and Representative Diaz. They are all supportive of this. So some of those key people that we need to help pass this and help to communicate this have indicated that it's going to happen. If you haven't noticed, we are very optimistic about this. We really think this is going to happen. Anybody who understands it at all is going to vote for it. This great announcement this morning about about the bachelor's degrees. The state of Arizona, the legislature is appropriating us money to be able to do that because they believe in it. However, this has to pass in November to be able to spend that money that they're sending to us. So it really is a simple solution. The only thing is people have to get out and vote. In fact, part of my concern is that people will see this and say, this is such a no-brainer. I don't have to worry about this. If I don't feel good that morning and don't vote, it's going to pass. I don't need to tell my neighbors, my son, my daughter, because of course it's going to pass. That probably is our biggest problem, is that there could be apathy.
Well, I think that's the information, but we wanted to, the reason that we're all sitting up here is to be able to answer any questions that you have about this issue. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, Craig. No cost to the voters, so it's not related to, yeah. That's actually a challenge. So the question was, is there a cost to the voters? And the question is, no, there's not. Like I said earlier, it's unrelated to the property tax levy or our ability to levy a tax. The challenge will be that some may assume that it is related to it, and that, oh, if I allow the college to reset their base, then they'll all of a sudden start increasing their tax levy. We're already at our capacity, our legal capacity to tax, so that's not going to all of a sudden increase our ability to tax. It's not connected at all. So there is no cost to the voters in that case. But again, the concern is that there are some out there that would fear that it is related. Good question. Why not quadruple the multiplier? That's a great question. Who wants to answer that?
We've obviously toyed around with the idea. It again just goes back to the public perception of what we're asking for. It is an interesting process because on the ballot, it won't say double, it won't say triple. We literally will have to put a number. One of the fears would be just that legislature or lobbyist groups, if we make it too big, would come in and say, well, we would support double, but we can't support quadruple. There are some that would like to see it become a problem again at some point, so that we would be forced to go to the voters to kind of ask permission to reset it. So it really is more of a political question than it is a numbers question. I mean, we've even kicked around the idea of resetting the base to current numbers right now, and then we literally would never have to worry about it again, unless EAC exists for another 500 years. So ideally, yeah, we would make that number as big as we could. We just don't know what that is. But we know at least doubling it, which at least sounds good, would give us capacity to kick this can way down the road again and focus on growth and expansion, which we're just ready to do right now. I might pass to Keith on this, but the original implementation of expenditure limit, and maybe I'll be going a little out of my lane on this, was really to stop entities, especially your cities and counties and towns, from taxing in multiple areas, which is ironic because education institutions, and K-12 is wrapped up in this mess as well, can only tax one thing, and that's property taxes, and we're limited. So if you think back to 79, Carter administration, I'm stealing some of Keith's words here, and I'll let him expound. You had entities, because inflation was also growing, trying to tax everything they could to pull in as many revenues as they could. And so the legislature looking at that and saying, we can't have our people taxed for everything they do. So they put this limit. Instead of trying to limit what they could tax, they said, well, we'll just limit what you can spend, and then there will be no reason for you to levy all these additional taxes. And then with that, all governments pretty much got thrown into the mix of, well, let's just put this limitation on everyone, with, again, not thinking through the fact that as an education institution, the only taxing authority we have is property tax, which is limited and which also has to be approved by a governing board who is elected by the people. So it feels like there's already these multiple layers that restrict us from taxing, and that's the frustration of then having this arbitrary calculation that then comes in and said, well, this is the amount of money you can spend. Keith, do you have additional?
I think you did excellent. One thing I will say too about that is we're speculating somewhat that would be double or 2.5. At the end of the day, it's a board decision. You know, there are 5 elected board members, and they'll balance that out, what they think politically works in their districts, what their voters want them to do. And in informal conversations with them, it seems to be that's a level that's kind of comfortable. Going back to kind of your specific question though, and Heston partly answered this. There are entities, small government entities out there that would like this to be addressed every couple of decades. They don't really want it to go 500 years into the future. They want to see how this works and be able to come back to it. But ultimately, that part of it's not our decision up here. It's up to the board.
Lisa, and then Sharon.
Are you restricted to have the ability to educate the public?
Good question. We are. Well, we're not. The question was, are we restricted in our ability to educate the public? The answer is, in a manner, we can educate. There's a law that says that the college can't use public resources to influence the outcome of an election. However, the question is not yet at the ballot. So we are a little bit more free to be able to talk about this, but we are always able to talk about the mechanics of it and the why. We just can't use our college resources to influence, to campaign for. But right now we have the ability to at least talk about it. Keith, you can probably give some more specifics there, and then Sharon.
All right, thank you. And so now my plant question on this, you don't have to ask because it's been a sincere question. Yeah, the college resources, there are a few resources that sometimes we don't think of as being college resources, and so you want to avoid those. One of the most significant ones is that our domain, eac.edu, that belongs to the public. So you can't use your work email to send out anything either advocating for or against this election. That is illegal. And the way the law is written is you are personally liable for those fines that would be there. We are prohibited by law from even paying those fines for you. So if you get something related to the election at your official email address, you have 2 things you can legally do. One, you can simply delete it and ignore it, or you can respond only to that person and only to tell them what email address to use instead. Please don't use my work one. Here's my personal one. Will you resend that? Don't ever forward anything on or create anything with your eac.edu address, because that is illegal. You can't wear anything on your person while you're on the clock. You can't wear things to class. You can't put up posters in your offices. You can't do those things, but it's all directly related to your employment. When you are outside of here, you can vote yes on Prop whatever number that is. You can put bumper stickers on your car. You can talk to your neighbors. You can do all of those things. Our students don't have these same restrictions, so you don't need to police them. If they wear campaign stuff into your class, they're welcome to do that. Things that aren't directly controlled by the college can take a position. The EAC Foundation can take a position on this and expend some resources within the law. The Faculty Association can take a position on this and use resources they want to, as long as it's not happening on the clock and as long as it's not also college money. The Booster Club can do this. So you have lots and lots of opportunities. In fact, we would hope that you would exercise your right to influence the government, your right to vote, your right to petition the government. Just don't use EAC resources, and especially those that you're not sure. And by the way, if you have any questions, is this a legal thing to do, please contact your supervisor, or I'll volunteer anybody up here. Any one of us, just call us, and if we don't know, we'll get that answer for you. The vast majority of what you want to do, you're going to be able to do, and we'll probably mostly defer to Tom, whatever, because we know IT at the end of the day controls everything. They are the gods of this place.
I just don't talk to my neighbors now.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that.
Yeah, Tom, you can sense the comfort level that he has right now. He didn't really want to speak. Instead, he wanted to do an interpretive jazz dance, Would you like to do that now?
I did it already earlier.
Oh, okay, okay. Sharon, I think you had a question.
That was what I wanted you to touch on, is just where we stand as employees and staff, what we can talk about, what capacity is, I was trying to explain it to my office. and
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure I covered it.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Other questions? Yes, Nate.
With a higher expenditure limit, would that reduce the need for the buffer, so we could potentially lower the amount of property tax we collect?
The higher, so with a higher, resetting the base to allow more spending, does that then allow us to lower the property tax levy? That's what you're asking?
Yeah, because we no longer would need as much of a buffer for when we get to it.
Okay, well, that's a good question. It's, as I said earlier, the two are completely unrelated. Property tax levy, how much we raise in property taxes, how much we receive from the state, and the limit that we have to expend those monies. The college governing board could always reduce the property tax levy. There's nothing that ever prevents them from doing so. What lowering the property tax levy would do is just naturally limit our ability to spend because we wouldn't have the money to spend. Does that make sense?
That's the thing, like right now, we're taxing more than we can spend. So if we are able to spend more of what we bring in, we don't need to have that buffer for those years where we're spending more.
The buffer is that capacity buffer that we expend because we are under our expenditure limitation. Those dollars are not, they're not actual dollars. It's just the ability to spend those dollars. So again, I don't know if I'm answering your question very well, Nate, but we can always, the governing board can always reduce property taxes. They can always do that. All that would do is just give us fewer resources to offer programs and services at the college. So Heston,
It wouldn't trigger an automatic reduction.
yeah, it wouldn't trigger an automatic reduction in the property tax levy. Again, I mean, the college governing board could reduce the levy if they wanted to, but again, it's unrelated to the expenditure limitation. I can sense that I'm not answering your question fully. Do you want to take a?
Well, I'll talk to him afterwards.
Okay, Troy's going to talk to you afterwards. He's going to strong arm you, as all accountants do.
Stop asking questions.
Good question though, and it's actually a good thing to bring up because I want to ensure that we divorce those two concepts of tax levy and expenditure limitation because they really are. It feels like they're related because we're talking about generating revenue and expending funds. So it feels like they're related, but they really are not related. So they're not tied to each other at all. So the original intent of the amendment was to limit how much public entities could spend. So I think that probably in theory, the principle was, well, if we limit what they can spend, then they will stop taxing people. That's probably the reason for it. However, the problem is that costs continue to increase. So if you want to continue to operate as an entity and certainly grow and provide the services that we need to provide to be a viable institution for our students and our community, you have to continue to spend. And so because they're not related, the problem with the formula that Troy mentioned was that fundamental flaw is that because they're not related, we'll always run into this conflict between how much we need to spend to operate and how much we're allowed to spend. That is unrelated to how much money we have. We can have a whole lot of money, but we can't legally spend it because of this artificial limitation. I hope I've answered that question. I actually did bring Tom up here for a reason. It's not just his amazing jazz dance abilities. It's also to talk about maybe the differences in just the natural costs of operating an institution like this today versus what EAC looked like in 1979. Troy, I think you mentioned that our academic programming was different. Certainly, we didn't have a nursing program at that time, but even if we did, a nursing program in 1979 is very different than a nursing program today. We didn't have a radiologic technology program with all of those really expensive equipment that we need to operate those programs, a commercial driver's license program, automotive welding program, computer-aided design and drafting program, Fab Labs, all of these programs that are actually very valuable programs to our students and to our state that we are not able to, that just cost more money than they did in 1979, not to mention the infrastructure that allows us the IT infrastructure that allows us to operate, and compliance requirements from the state and federal government. Tom, would you like to address that?
I think you nailed it right there. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would say it's interesting if you think back to the late 70s, that early 80s, and you think about the tech that was required at that point. It's definitely changed. They simplified in higher ed and say computers cost more than chalk to kind of represent that change. For us, in a lot of corporations, bigger businesses, technology is introduced to increase efficiencies and boost productivity. For a college, technology is introduced to support the student learning experience. It's rare to find a job, a career path now that doesn't involve a high amount of technology in it. For us to continue to prepare students for those careers effectively, we have to spend on technology, whether it's rad tech or technology for EMT or ITE is, the things that you used to be able to order that didn't have a computer in it has been reduced. You used to be able to take your car to a mechanic, get it worked on. Now there's computer chips and they have to be well-versed in that. So for us, technology spending is all about student success. So we don't want to be hampered by a lower expenditure rate. We are always very prudent when it comes to technology spending at EAC. We are. But when we start talking about the student experience, we don't want to start cutting corners, because that'd be the same as starting to cut programs. We're not going to be as competitive, and we're not going to set students up for success. So technology is just part of that equation of many things that have changed education since the late 70s.
Thank you. Susan?
So I think the temptation might be to say, well, we're in these dire straits, so we better not plan for the future. And that's not what this is about. So I'm going to put on the rose-colored glasses just for a moment. And those of you who know me know that I don those glasses very well. And that is to say, let's keep thinking about how to not only not cut programs, but to grow programs. There are several of you out there who have really innovative ideas about additional certificates that we might be able to offer, AAS degrees, or bachelor degrees. We don't want you to stop thinking and planning for the future. That's, in fact, the message here is let's solve the problem so that we can keep doing that, so that we can continue to grow, so that we can continue to meet the needs of our external stakeholders, our advisory committee members who come a couple times a year and tell us what it is that they need. We want to be able to support that. So this isn't about, it's not about cutting corners, as Tom said. This is about being strategic and making sure that we can continue to grow.
We have about 10 more minutes. Other questions? Nate?
Give some examples of, on a positive note, of things that are not subject to expenditure limitations, like grants.
Oh, good question. Heston?
Grants to start with. Any federal grants are not subject. Our auxiliary revenues, so revenues from food service, from dorms, campus store included as well. So any business kind of function, even our ticket sales, those kind of things, none of those monies are count against tuition. That's probably our biggest tuition. So again, the more kids we can get here, the more revenues we have that are not subject to the expenditure limit, and frankly, to even other restrictions. Those are definitely our favorite kind of monies to have. It's interesting because this EL, again, is about 34. Our real expenditures are around 60 million. We'll probably be anywhere from 60 to 70 million over the next few years. So about roughly half of our funds are not subject. So again, it really is a little difficult to wrap your head around, even to Nate's question over here, trying to disassociate what this expenditure limit really is, and even that this capacity, it's not real dollars. The carry forward is not even real dollars. It really is this capacity that it creates to limit or to either limit or help us spend what we have. But it really, we treat it as this separate kind of challenge and beast that is different than our financials, different than our regular business functions. Did I leave any out, Troy or Nate? You probably know as well. Talk about a planted question, right? Nate could probably tell us all the revenues that we receive that aren't subject to EL. Pell is an example of a federal grant. The new grant we just got, that $2.2 million, will not be subject. Money we spend, Troy mentioned, on buildings and renovations and acquiring land, none of that is subject. That just triggered the other thought, and that is the unintended consequences of the EL, and that is lease payments and debt payments are not subject. So what you see a lot of institutions, and I'm sure Troy's getting inundated, I have vendors contacting me left and right saying, hey, let us come in and we will buy your property and you can lease it back from us. And then you'll be under the EL. So we could literally start selling our buildings, which is what the state of Arizona did back in 2008 when they were in dire straits, and pay 20% interest to continue to use our own buildings just so we can stay under this arbitrary limit. So now we'll just start wasting taxpayer dollars just to stay in business. So those are some of the stories. And these have been going on for years, trying to go to legislature. I mean, this is an age-old problem. Explaining to legislature, here you are wanting us to be conservative with our funds. Well, here's what we're going to have to do if you don't help us. And them coming back and saying, well, it's in the Constitution. You're going to have to take it to your voters. We actually had Greenlee County, the last ballot passed an expenditure limit. They reset their base. It went through very quietly. In fact, I didn't even know about it till a couple weeks ago. I had no idea that they went and had to do that. So there's counties, there's cities, everyone, at some point it becomes a problem. It's just an interesting one in higher ed and really in education in general. You hear the stories now for the last 3 years. Our K-12 get to March, and we start hearing, do you want your kids to go to school tomorrow? And then legislature for them, and this is where K-12 differs from us, is they consider the expenditure limit for K-12 in totality for every single entity in the state of Arizona. So it's easy for the legislature to go in and just say, okay, increase the capacity so our kids can go to school after spring break, where for us as community college, it's dealt with on an individual basis. So because we're not all hitting it at the same time, there's little reason for the legislature, and also there's only 10 of us as compared to, I don't know how many K-12s there are, how many of those legislatures are actually even interested, even if they're from our own county, and then to go get every single other state senator or representative to vote for something when they're dealing with a million other issues. So, yes, please.
I want to add one thing to that as well. We talk about excludable income, which is wonderful that we have such a high percentage. That also underscores, again, in case some of you still think we can cut our way out of it, all of those excludable things, if we cut those, it doesn't help. So if we got rid of the SBDC, if we got rid of the Gear Up program, if we got rid of the rural program that Todd just introduced today, some of the sports, athletics has really worked hard to raise their funds, and the Chancellor Endowment got rid of a couple of those teams. All of that gone would not help our expenditure limit because those are already excludable. So when you talk about, well, what can we cut to do it? Well, the only thing we could cut are things that students are in, where we're using that taxpayer money to support it, and it would drive that footsie down. So excludable is good, but it also means there's just literally nothing to cut, because you cut out these things that you might think are extra, it doesn't count anyway.
We have about 5 minutes left. Yes, question.
Would it be accurate to say for rent that increasing the expenditure limit also allows us to keep our tuition lower?
So the question is, would it be accurate to say that increase in our expenditure limitation also allows us to keep our tuition lower? Heston?
Yeah, it's an interesting thought because they really kind of are unrelated, but I think what you're driving at is, hey, if tuition is excludable, we should raise as much tuition as we can. So in a way, you could probably say that. I think it's probably a little bit, yes, disingenuous, because I think we would be pushing almost like, hey, well, this is one really bad thing that would happen if we don't get that. Because again, they're not necessarily related. It does help us because the more funds we have that don't go against that could help us potentially stay under that limit. But if we really looked at it in totality, we don't even raise enough tuition to make that big of a difference anyway. So even if we doubled tuition, it might buy us an extra year or two, but we would still end up in the same boat. So I would say that's probably not one of the things that we would use as a bullet point to tell people.
So with so many entities in the state hitting this expenditure limit and formula being so outdated and problematic, is there any move within the legislation to probably bring that back to the voters to adjust that overall for all entities within the state versus every entity scrambling to try to get voters to change the formula for that entity alone?
It's a great question. You want to repeat it so that they can all hear?
Since almost every public body in the state of Arizona is subject to the expenditure limit and they run into these problems from time to time, is there some reasonable chance that the legislature would fix this once and for all for the entire state? And while that's somewhat speculative, probably not. And there are two reasons for that. It would still have to go to the voters. So the legislature could say, let's just get rid of the expenditure limit or change the formula, but it would have to be sent to the voters to vote on. That would require somebody to run a campaign. It gets very difficult. The other part of it, though, the solution of going to the voters overall for the past 40 plus years actually has worked very well. We've never had to do it before, and we're kind of an outlier. If you live in the city of Safford or town of Pima, you do this on a regular basis. That's every 5-6 years you just reset the base. That's what the county, we've done that in Graham County. As he said, just last election, Greenlee County does, where people have done this a few times and they see, wow, this really is not increasing my taxes. It's just allowing it to happen. And so we're kind of unique that it's finally hit us. This is predictive as well, but my guess is this will pass and the voters will say, okay, this makes sense. I see why we did it. But the Constitution is designed for local control in Arizona, and you can view that as a good thing for a bad thing, but it really is set up so that we can decide for ourselves what we want to do. Hope that wasn't a longer answer than you wanted.
Cliff. What do you want the money for? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Great question. If you didn't hear, the question is one of the questions that voters may have when they see this is, well, what are you going to do with the money? What are you going to do with that capacity? What are you going to spend it on? Are you going to raise your own salaries? Are you going to spend it? Where's the guarantee that you're going to spend it fiscally responsibly? Is that the right way to say that? That's a great question. And again, another concern that we want to address with voters so that they can understand. As I mentioned earlier, one of our key pillars, one of our foundational goals is to be responsible with the monies that are entrusted to us. We have a budget that the governing board passes every year. The governing board, the 5-member elected board, are ultimately responsible for the monies that the college spends. Whether that's raises, whether that's new programs, whether it's new buildings, that's who has oversight over the monies from Eastern Arizona College and how they're spent. So I don't know if that answers the question sufficiently. Keith, do you want to?
Yeah, two things. One, it's to maintain what we already have. And so you literally can give them a link to our current budget. That what we're spending this year, if you know, what Troy showed you, is accounting for inflation so that we can continue to offer these programs. That in black and white by department is showing what we want to do. The other thing that this wasn't part of your question, but it's important to know, you know, our local taxes raises about $6 or $7 million. Our expenditure limit is 34 million. The rest of that money is coming from outside of the community. And so what this expenditure limit really does is allow us the money that's appropriated from other places. It's great that we have that local money to help. Our citizens are very supportive. We're able to leverage that to bring in more money, but almost all of that money that's subject to the expenditure limit that we would have to do away with is money that's coming into Graham County from other places. That's the single biggest taxpayer in the state of Arizona is the Palo Verde Nuclear Power Plant. We get money for that here. If we have to have our expenditure limit continue to go down, we will not be able to expend that money that taxpayers are paying in other parts of the state. So if you're talking about fiscal responsibility, that's what it is. If we want to bring in other money so we can operate, the voters have to give us permission to spend that money we're getting.
We are out of time right now. I appreciate the questions and I appreciate Troy and his explanation of the numbers. I want you to know something, that this is not the only time that we're going to talk about this. If you do have other questions or you just weren't comfortable asking the question in a group, please ask. Please ask us. Please ask any one of us. We'll be happy to answer those questions or at least get the answers to those questions. The other thing that I want to, and I'm going to turn the time over to Susan to kind of explain the rest of the morning, but the other thing that I want to explain to you all is that my focus as the current president of the college is the long-term strength of the institution to ensure that it exists, not just while I am the president, but far, far into the future so that future administrators and future presidents can continue offering the amazing programs and services that we offer to our students and all of those individuals who take advantage of what we have to offer here at Eastern Arizona College in this beautiful part of the state. There is a great story, it's maybe a little bit apocryphal, from Harvard University, and I tell this from time to time, that happened in the 80s during I think it was a student protest. And one of the deans at Harvard was addressing the students who were protesting something or other. I'm not sure what the initial concern was, but the response from the dean to those students was this: students, you will be here at Harvard for 4 years. And then you will graduate, and then you will go on to your lives. I will be here for the course of my professional life, for my lifetime. But Harvard is forever. It will continue to survive and exist and thrive. Now, we're not Harvard. We're only 136 years old. We're not 400 plus years old. But I like to think that EAC will be 400 plus years old, almost 300 years into the future. And so my focus is on the long-term sustainability and strength of Eastern Arizona College so that long after I'm gone, long far after I'm gone, the college can continue to survive and thrive, and that we will offer future generations the amazing, unique experiences and the world-class education that we offer here at EAC. Thank you all.
So right now, we want to give you a break, about 15 minutes. If you'll come back at 11 o'clock, that's right, yes, at about 11 o'clock, then we are going to pivot back to our thematic goal of the ERP, and Dr. Westerfield is going to give us some really important information about what the next 6 months are going to look like in terms of the implementation of the ERP/anthology. We'll then break for lunch. At that point, I'll talk with you again about how you're going to get your t-shirt and your recruitment packet, and talk to you just a little bit about what happens this afternoon, tomorrow morning, and Thursday. So please take a break and come back in 10-15 minutes.
All right, we're gonna get started here in about a couple minutes. Grab your seats. Grab your seats. I know, yeah. I feel like I didn't put on my military voice. All right. I could call the room to attention, but I don't think we'll do that. All right. All right, grab your seats. We're gonna get going. Yeah, I know, really, yeah. All right, we got it pretty good. Everyone seated. So welcome back to campus. Hope everyone had a great Christmas. I will be speaking on the ERP updates and the amazing work that the ERP core team has begun. Actually, a year ago, last year, we actually did the ERP kickoff. So there's been a lot that has been accomplished in this last year, and we'll go through some of those, a couple of those updates. I need to stop following the president with the balloons and T-shirts, and I really need to pick up my game there, but maybe next year. Well, no, we won't be doing the ERP next year, so this won't happen. All right. So here's our agenda for the next about 45 minutes or so. We're going to go over the project updates, what's happened since this last year. We kicked off January 5th of last year with Anthology on site. We also had our Ferrelli consultants on site as well. So we'll go through kind of what we've done the year since, also the timeline and what's going to happen for the spring semester, and then eventually on into our go live. Then we're going to talk briefly about the integrations and add-ons. So I'll mention 4 that specifically apply to the student systems, the student integration system. And then we also have Transact, which I won't talk about today, but that was another integration that we added on with our Anthology product. The training and the what trainings are going to come. So how is the training going to come to the end user? So we'll talk briefly about that on the Anthology systems, and then I'll leave about 10 minutes or so for questions. Any questions that you guys have from a faculty standpoint, from a staff standpoint, integrations, and we can kind of go through any questions that you guys have, and I'll push some out to the core team if I don't know. So here is our ERP subway journey, the Project Monster 360 and what we've been doing since. It's a 5-phase approach to the implementation. So we started off with the kickoff, back in January. Then we moved to planning, design, build, test, and then we deploy, which is the go live July 1st of 2024. And then after that is the transition phase, where we'll do some cleanup, and then we'll have the system live and operational. So we started, wasn't that cool how they moved? We'll do that again. Yeah. Thank you. It's just the morph tab on PowerPoint. It's a game changer for PowerPoints. So the planning phase, we kicked, so about January or so, we moved right into the planning phase. The planning phase involved our client onboarding. So what that means is we just gathered all the documents that we had and we gave them to Anthology so they could begin the building of the environment for the system. And then we had the project kickoff in January, and then the authorization to proceed once we had all the systems and access and everything like that that we needed for our team to be able to communicate with Anthology. So that was the plan phase. The design phase, So the design phase includes the solution discovery, and that was all of our, like a review of the EAC business processes. So how do you register a student? How do you how do you remove a student? How do you apply fees? How do you pay employees? How do you onboard an employee? So it was countless hours of meetings through teams to kind of document how EAC operates as a college. Since every college does things differently, we had to communicate that to Anthology, and then they built the system based off of EAC's business processes. And then we also moved into data discovery and mapping. So that includes all student data, employee data, the budgets, just everything, all the EAC data, and we mapped it to the Anthology system. Well, I guess Anthology did, but based off of what we provided, what data we provided them. And that was again, in the design phase. And then we also did an integrations review. So all of the third-party integrations that we have, we did a review on those and decided on which ones we would keep, which ones would get brought over and develop integrations so it talks to Anthology and the third-party system, such as Canvas, the bookstore, and things like that, Academos. And so that was the design phase of the project. Then we move on to the build phase. And the build phase was really the heart of what we're doing. And it was just a ton of work, as Heather and Reckers and Sharon will attest. The configuration of the system itself. So they went into the Anthology, they call it the sandbox or the system, and they configured each piece. They configured each degree program and configured each system of high schools and all the buildings. And it was just a ton of work that has been put in on the configuration of the system so it looks like a system that is usable for us on the end users. Also within the build phase, we again evaluated the business processes now that Anthology and fit those business processes to what Anthology can deliver for us and what's feasible within the Anthology system. And so that included either reevaluating our business processes or changing it to fit what Anthology can do. So for example, we currently don't make students fill out any form or anything to change their major. So students can just change their major on a whim. Well, during the business process configuration, we decided that we wanted students to fill out a form and they have to wait till the end of the semester to change their major. So you don't reduce that impact on financial aid and reporting and things like that. So it was a matter of re-examining our business processes of how EAC does things and then reconfigure it to the Anthology system or vice versa, or try to figure out this is how EAC does it, how can Anthology fit that system. And that was, let's see, what else do we do within there? That was the build phase of it. And now we moved into testing. So the testing side of things is what is where we're currently at. So as you'll note, there's different stops for each of the different areas. So we have a line for student services and academics. We have a line for fiscal and HR, a line for payroll, and a line for IT and IR. So currently the student services and the IT and IR, they're currently in the testing phase of the process. Whereas payroll and fiscal is still in the building of the building. They're doing work cycles to continue to build out the system and what that'll look like. So they're just on the tail end. So they'll finish up that project. They'll finish up the build phase towards the end of the month, mid-February, and then they'll move on to the testing of the system, which won't be as extensive or in-depth or nuanced really as the student side of things, but it will still be a lot of work for our HR and our fiscal teams to manage. So we're kind of on different stops, but eventually we'll get to the deployment phase, which is our July 1 date. And the train is still moving forward and we're still right on schedule for the July 1 implementation and go live of Anthology. So, and that's all to the dedication and the work of the ERP core team, really. Being able to just manage their full-time job on top of a huge implementation of upwards of 20, 30 hours a week that they've dedicated to this project on top of their full-time job. It's been immensely just a huge dedication to the team. Actually, our consultants and even Anthology have said they've never seen a project go so smooth and so effortlessly, and they haven't seen the dedication from a school on an implementation like ours. And I feel like they're not just saying that. It really is. They constantly remind us that it's unheard of on how much the team has been working. So huge kudos to our ERP core team. Yeah, definitely. So then I just want to kind of briefly touch on the deployment phase. So we'll go live July 1 of 2024, and that'll be the go live date where Anthology and will be fully operational. Beacon will go away, and then we'll fully use our Anthology system. So it's quite huge and impacts every area of the college, which is why it's one of the main focuses to date. And then we move into the transition phase, which is where we'll transfer to more of like a customer service role for Anthology. So here's our train schedule. As you'll see, the dates, things like that. It's kind of busy. So the big important thing is to go live July 1. We've fought constantly with Anthology to keep it at July 1, and we're working tirelessly to make sure that happens. 174 days for those who are counting. It might be just me, but 174 days is to July 1. So here's so that's kind of what has been moving forward for the spring semester. These are some of our tasks that are happening for the student, the fiscal, and the technical side of things. The spring semester is going to be quite busy with our, they call them ETLs, extract, transfer, and load. So there's, I think, 4 iterations of this testing. So that's when they extract the data from the Beacon system, then they transfer and load it into the Anthology system, all the student data, everything like that, all the courses, programs. They transfer all of that data into the Anthology system, and then they give us about 700 test cases to look at and test the data to make sure that it's clean data, that it's operational, that when you register a student for a class, that it's seamless. And this is also when we go live, that if we want to register a student, there's no complications. So these are really important tests. There's, like, again, 700 that encompass the entire student life cycle from the application all the way to graduation and beyond. So it's a huge, huge task. And then they do issue resolution as well. So once the testing, all the 700 test cases are done, we then meet and look at all the issues that are identified, and we work to fix those issues with the Anthology team and the data engineers and ITS. So we'll be doing that this entire spring semester. We just finished up ETL 1. We had about a 40% pass rate, which is really successful for a college. Typically, you'll see pass rates for other colleges at 15 to 20%. So we're already ahead of the curve for ETL 1, and moving into ETL 2, we'll begin to further test that data to and address any issues that we encountered and continue to clean up the process and the configurations that we worked so hard on during the beginning of the project. So that's the ETL 2 and 3. Eventually, we'll start integrating those solutions from Canvas and moving how do grades get transferred over, and moving all of those integrations into the system, and then begin testing that data as well. We're also working on faculty workload management. It's a tool to manage the faculty kind of workload, like the title suggests. But currently we're doing the configuration and the testing of that, and that should be finished up sometime mid-semester, about March or so. We also have the student faculty portal, which I'll show you guys in a little bit. I asked another college who's already have implemented their Anthology. I asked for some screenshots to kind of show you what it'll look like. So it's not branded to EAC. We begin that at the end of the month, at the end of January. is when we'll start to work on the faculty and the student portals. So that would be kind of like your Hela Hank, so to speak. So where do students go to register? Where do faculty go to look at their courses and things like that? And that'll all be built at the end of January, and it'll move on until about March or so. And if you want to get on that, we're building our team now. So if you have any suggestions or anything like that, definitely we're open to those. So we're doing the discovery. So that means what do you want it to look like? And then we'll do the configurations, which is how do you build it now? And then we also have Anthology Evaluate, and we're beginning the discovery phase for that. And that'll, I'll talk briefly about that as an add-on. On the finance side for fiscal and HR, so we're finalizing the finance HCM, which is the HR, and the payroll work cycles. So we're finalizing those work cycles. That's the building of the system. We'll finalize that at the end of the month, and then we'll begin the testing phase of all of those different solutions and the configurations. It won't be as nuanced as the student side, but it'll still be a lot of work for those different teams. And then we also have time and attendance, beginning the business process review and the final reconfigurations for those systems. On the technical side, we're in deep on the integrations. We're beginning those, so we'll be completing the integrations and scripting with third-party vendors, the applications, and then developing the reports for those. So that'll all be need to get tied in together from Anthology to whatever system, whatever third-party system we're using, whether it's Transact, CourseDog, which we'll talk about in a sec, and other solutions. Then next we have our training as well. So the database schema and API trainings, that's all IT stuff, so I don't know what that means. But the Power BI training and report building as well is also going to get worked on as well. So that's all going to be just kind of in this spring semester. So it's going to be kind of that final push before the summer, and then when we really start to go live July 1. So a heavy and a very busy spring semester. So as I mentioned, we have, during the business process review, we identified integrations or third-party solutions that are currently housed in Beacon that'll naturally go away once we go live to Anthology. So some of those third-party solutions are anything from services in the library, reports from like Get Inclusive to make sure we're training our students on Title IX and compliance issues, all the way from Academos, CourseDog, Transact, kind of those big one, Canvas solutions. And so all of those third parties need to communicate with Anthology in order to communicate with that student data. So we're in deep on the integrations. And some of the solutions that we have in Beacon aren't offered in Anthology. So then we needed to either find a solution or find a workaround on how to manage those different solutions. The first one that we identified was our LEMS, all right? The end of year student evaluations that you get after for faculty after the semester. And so Anthology has a product called Anthology Evaluate. And that's going to replace the LEMS or the end of year evaluations in Beacon. And it's going to utilize a survey-based assessment. It'll be a really robust tool that'll be able to track and really have a lot of data that'll be tied to courses and faculty and things like that. So it's a really exciting tool. We went to the Anthology conference and I sat in on a session, and it's going to be a really robust tool to be able to utilize for student or for end of course evaluations. The other one is Anthology Occupational Insight. This isn't so much of an integration as it is an add-on. And this Occupational Insight is going to replace Career Coach. So Gina Roebuck, she's going to take the lead on the Occupation Insight and be able to roll that out. Again, it's going to replace Career Coach. So it's a two-phase approach. We'll integrate the first phase, which is just going to be like career data. It's going to be career outlook. So a student wants to pursue a degree in biology. What are the careers offered to them, where are the jobs, what's the career outlook, the salary projections, and things like that. So that's going to replace that, and it'll integrate with Anthology Student. So that's the second phase, is that currently our career coach, you can kind of somewhat tie it to student data, but it doesn't talk directly to Beacon. Whereas Anthology Occupational Insight is going to take all of that student data and it'll tie it directly to the Occupation Insight and start tying the degree completions. It'll tie the student, all the student data and the career outlooks and what that student's declared major is, and then get them connected to whatever degree that EAC offers. So it's going to be a really robust career tool that'll slide really nicely with our new career center that's getting open. So really excited for the Occupational Insight. And it's going to help students immensely with just kind of figuring out what can I do with this degree, or answer the question of they don't know what to do with their life, and hopefully answer that question. Probably not, but maybe. All right, the next two I want to highlight, and I have slides to showcase this. The first one is faculty and student portals, which I talked about briefly. And I'll show some screenshots of what that'll look like, what Anthology offers, and then how we can adjust it to meet EAC's needs. And then the last one is Course Dog, which I'll talk about the different integrations for that one, and who are the team leads for those. So here is, hopefully it's big enough. So this was the screenshots. I connected with I guess the director of computer services at Rocky Mountains College of Arts and Design. So they have an Anthology faculty and student portal, and they sent me some screenshots that'll kind of paint a picture. It'll look a little bit different. It'll be EAC branded, and it may look a little different. We won't probably have an applicant portal homepage, but so it'll look a little bit different, but just kind of as a visual to see kind of what's to come and what we're currently building come January and February. So this is the main login page for students and portal for the students. As a student and portal homepage, and then it also has one for faculty as well. So two different logins, but it'll be the same login. So it's two different links, but it'll be the same login. So you won't have to store multiple passwords. It'll just be one login password for Anthology. And you'll select whichever portal you need to get into. Here's the second screenshot that he sent me, and this is what it looks like kind of on the main homepage. You can search for students, search for recent students and find them. It has your calendar, classes, tasks, and then you can search on the right side there. You have the campus, and you can search for students more in depth rather than just a last name, first name. You can really search in depth for the student that you're looking for. On the right side, or I'm sorry, on the left side, is the menu tab, and all of this is customizable, so we can add whatever we want or delete whatever we want within the system. So as campus info, your profile, contact manager, the students, the classes you teach, and then also school resources, faculty resources, and then the student learning center as well. So all of there will be easily accessible within just one portal. This is an example of the grade book within the faculty portal. It has simple options for faculty to get to their courses for grading and attendance. So your course list will just be all right there. Be able to access the class that you teach. And it'll also be accessible for the adjunct faculty as well. And then you have, for example, the My Classes. You can see your class schedule. You can see the grade book. As well as grades and attendance. And then there's also an option for help as well. So if you are a bit confused within the system, you can disaggregate it based off of the semester as well if you wanted to take a look at past semesters. And again, you can look up recent students as well. So kind of cool. Again, it'll all be rebranded to EAC colors and logos, and even the user experience will be altered and changed based off of EAC's needs. Here's an example of the class attendance roster. It's color-coded, so you can kind of take a look at the classes you teach, when they are offered, any holidays. So it's an easily accessible and user-friendly calendar for your classes. Again, the grades, if you wanted to look at the grades, it'll be alpha or numeric, round based off of this, the EAC's grading scales, whatever we decide as the grading scale and what we input into it. So it'll be based off of that. And then lastly, I think this is the last screenshot. This is the customized menu for options. So EAC can host self-help materials. So if you have like kind of like a cheat sheet on how to enter grades, a cheat sheet on different functionalities within the system, it can all be housed within there, or different resources for the academic advising side, different resources for financial aid. It can all be within the faculty portal, so it's easily accessible. You can find it in just a matter of a couple clicks. How to post grades, how to post attendance within the faculty portal. And we can expand or subtract based off of EAC's needs. So all of it, again, I wish we had built it maybe a little bit both sooner, but just based off of the timeline, we weren't able to begin the design of these portals. But this is what we'll be working on come February and into the March months on developing these different systems. And we have a meeting, I think, in 2 weeks to go over kind of the initial building and the initial configuration of these portals. So I'll stop there. Any questions on the faculty portal or anything like that, or anything that we've done so far? I don't know if it would replace it's an entirety, but I think it would definitely be a good place to link articles to. So maybe not replace it fully, but definitely be a depository for documents that would be housed in knowledge base. So yeah. Anything else before we move on? Yeah. Fall registration will start in March. So that's a great question. So students will continue to register within Beacon for the March semester. I'm sorry, yeah, for the fall semester, sorry, yeah. So in March, they'll be able to register. It'll be within Beacon still, but all of that will be transposed into the anthology system once it goes live. So unfortunately, they'll still do it in Beacon, but all that data will still show up in anthology come go live date. Yeah. All right, sweet. So the next topic I want to talk about is CourseDog. So really funny name, but an amazing product. So CourseDog, we're implementing 4 different products within CourseDog. So again, we had to find a solution for our course scheduling, which is currently housed in Beacon. The academic catalog and curriculum management isn't in Beacon, but we still needed something to kind of be able to house those products, as well as the event scheduling, which is, we have facility scheduling in Beacon, and then we added on the event scheduling as well. So there's 4 different products that we're implementing. The executive sponsor for CourseDog is Dr. Susan Wood. I was lucky enough to be the project manager for this project, and then the technical leads on our the ITS side. So Tom Thompson, Dennis Griffin, and Courtney Rayleigh will also be the technical leads and be managing the data side of things. So the first product that we're looking to implement with CourseDog is the course scheduling. And the functional lead for this will be Tanya Larson. She is going to be leading our course scheduling, and she's already been in the course scheduling system, but has already been in the project management system and has been really rocking all the different tasks that are assigned to her. But this course scheduling it'll clear the conflicts up and bottlenecks for student pathways. So it'll be able to trigger flags if you schedule maybe 2 similar courses that a student needs a specific semester. If a student needs it, you don't want to schedule it at inopportune times. So it'll help identify some of those different kind of conflicts or bottlenecks that students might encounter. Optimize course schedules. It'll project course demand and efficiency of resources through data analytics. So we'll be able to see how busy the AP building is versus how busy the math science building is, and where some of those openings are for the buildings and the classes and courses. We'll also be able to kind of tag different resources that are associated with specific classrooms, so we know what classes to schedule where. So it'll also help reduce the maybe the conflicts. If you want to change your class schedule, it'll be easier to kind of see where those conflicts are rather than just kind of taking a stab at it and thinking, I think I'll teach it at 2 o'clock on Thursday. You'll be able to identify really easily where those classes are and any conflicts that might arise from that. So that'll be the course scheduling product. And all of these we're projected to go live. We've just kind of kicked off. We did our initial meeting with CourseDog at the begin. I guess before break is when we first met with them, and we'll I guess go live, to use the anthology term. We'll go live with CourseDog towards August and September, in time for the course scheduling and the academic catalog and all of that things. So just in time for the October registration. The second tool second product that we're going to look to implement with CourseDog is the academic catalog. The functional leads for this will be Debbie Larson, and because Heather doesn't have anything else to do, she is also going to be our functional lead. Just kidding, she does a lot. Yeah, or cry. So this will provide a uniform EAC branded online catalog. It'll provide an accessible and ADA compliant catalog as well. It'll be all online, and then it could also be downloaded into a PDF version, or specific pages can be downloaded into a PDF version. It'll also sync curriculum changes in real time with the curriculum management. So currently you have to kind of any changes has to get updated in multiple different locations. With I see Shirley's like, yep. Yeah, so any changes will automatically get updated into the curriculum or the academic catalog. And so that brings us to the curriculum management. And the functional leads for this one will be Shirley Skinner and Dr. Pete Chittister. So they're going to take the lead on the curriculum management side of things. So it's going to be easily able to gather course change information, build degree maps and chart pathways to completion, develop and update and track learning outcomes within this system, and then also syncs updates with the academic catalog. So those two are going to talk to each other and make it really, any changes that happen within the curriculum side of things is automatically going to get updated in the academic catalog and then go live on the next publication, the next academic year. So you won't have to go to multiple sources of truth. It'll be one source of truth based off of all of the curriculum changes that got approved in the curriculum, committee, the curriculum committee, and then also the governing board and the different process for updating all of that. So those two will talk to each other, and it'll be really nice to have kind of one single source of truth within an easily accessible format. The last tool that we're implementing is event scheduling. So again, we have facility scheduling within Beacon, and this will take the place of the event scheduling. The functional leads for this one will be Nathan Smith and Chaz Ornelas. So those two are going to take the lead on this project. And so this one is going to align the academic and the events calendar. So it'll talk to the course scheduling and be able to kind of identify those different what spaces are being utilized, promote events through custom events calendar within the website, and then also simplify event requests and then track down. You'll be able to track the setups, the teardowns, and the different timing that's required for all the different events. So you're not scheduling events back to back when it takes 6 hours to tear down and reset. So again, another really great tool that'll get implemented. So on to the trainings. So the trainings to the end user will happen towards the end of the spring semester. Again, we're still in the testing phase. So if we were to train you guys on the products now, the data wouldn't be as accurate as it could be, and it would just lead to a lot of frustration and it's not a broken system, but currently it's kind of in a really rough stage. So we can't start the training until we know for sure that a lot of you have good, clean data within the system. And that won't happen until we're looking at the end of April, early May to begin the testing. So again, we go live July 1, which is in the middle of the summer. So not ideal for faculty. So we're trying to get as close to possible as we can to the summer and to our go live without running into the summer. So the trainings will take place on a departmental level towards the end of April, May-ish, before our go live, and then additional trainings will take place after go live into the fall semester. So how to import grades, you'll need that come fall semester, and some of those tasks you won't need to know until we get into the fall semester, but we'll have a robust training system to be able to get the training all the way down to the lowest level end user that needs to be able to go into the system. There's also going to be student training as well, probably in the fall semester, maybe early or late summer before they come back to school. So we're still playing with the timelines and the dates and what that'll look like, but that'll come towards the finalization of the project. But if you want to know if you want to get into the system without really getting into the system, you can do so through what's called Anthology Academy. So if you go to anthology.com/academy, everyone with an @eac.edu domain will have access to Anthology Academy. So if you want to go in and kind of get an idea of what it looks like, get an idea of how to enter grades in now, or how to do different functional processes, you can go into the Anthology Academy, and they have hundreds and hundreds of videos of how to do certain things. So it's good to know now if you just kind of want to explore the system, but it'll also be really helpful after go live and as you're in the system and playing around and you just want to watch a quick 3-minute video on how to do something. This is a really great resource. So you can currently, as is right now, go in. You will have to log in and register for an account, but if you just use your EAC email address, you'll set up a password, and then you'll have access to hundreds of videos on how to operate the system within the Anthology environment. And then they also host webinars and trainings and different things like that if you're interested in going to some of those topics. So that leads us to the end, but I do want to leave some time or some room for questions if you guys have any for the Anthology or any integrations or anything like that. Any questions?
So what would be the official cutoff of Beacon is no longer being used? Because the students are registering in March through Beacon, and then July goes live, but there's still some registering classes with right before they start.
Mm-hmm.
They still use Beacon at that point, or
No.
they say no more Beacon and it's now Anthology?
July 1. Yeah. So we're going to cut off Beacon and fully move towards Anthology system. So it'll be completely just a hard cutoff, and we'll be moving it onto Anthology. Yeah, great question. So some students, I guess, in that case, some students will register within Beacon and some within the Anthology system, but I think we haven't made an official decision, but I don't see why we wouldn't call it Gila Hank, but people may want to change the name or something. I don't know, but it'll still be, the link you'll be redirected to the Anthology system. So I guess it'll be a different link, but it'll be the same. You'll still access it the same way and still be able to log in the same way and everything like that. So it really won't be that huge disruption. The biggest disruption that they'll see is once they're in the system registering for classes. And at that point, we'll have trainings, and then we'll also have people that they can go to for how to register for classes. Or definitely a lot of contact information and be able to communicate that out to the campus to help. Any other questions? Yeah.
Will the PO requests and purchasing process be similar?
It'll probably be similar. It's probably a better question for fiscal, but I think it'll be a similar process as far as I know. But a different system of how you'll do that. but I think simplified, right? Fiscal, so yeah. Yeah, it'll be a much simplified system, and a different system. So a simpler process, but a different system. So yeah, very much simplified. It'll work even better. Yeah. Anything else? Any other questions? Yeah.
Summer terms, will they be affected? They'll be full, like attendance and everything will be done.
Correct. Yeah. So that July 1 is kind of that cutoff. So it'll really just, I guess, depend on the summer courses, but they'll still, at that point, they'll still register within Beacon. So.
So it's feasible to start out taking attendance with Beacon and switch over to anthology.
It's possible. I think we'll have to look at what that'll look like from like a functional side of things on what that'll really look like once we transition over. But yeah, it'll be similar. But we'll definitely have some more trainings and more like those specifics more so towards the end of the semester.
Yeah, like we teach summer classes that are all 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
5 weeks.
Yeah.
They go over version 2.
Yeah. So in that case, yeah, we'll have to take a look at some of those classes, definitely, and see kind of what that'll look like, and definitely communicate that out once we have a more step-by-step definitive answer on what that'll look like. Switch to midstream. Yeah, that's right. I like your thinking. All right. So if there's no other questions, I'm going to turn the time over to Susan, and she'll give you how to get your swag, stuff we all get. Right?
Thank you, Erin. That was great. Lots and lots of information and lots of questions that we will be able to answer as time goes on. It's hard to answer all of those questions. What helps me to sleep at night is that I know that other colleges have done this and they still exist. And for the most part, I think people still have their hair. So, all right. So what happens now? Let me just give you a bit of information about the rest of the week, and then I'll talk about what happens in order to get your swag. So we will have lunch coming up now, and it will be in the same area that you got your breakfast. And so they're boxed, and you'll be able to get your lunch and then either go back to your office and eat, find some sunny space outside. Yeah, not me, although I do have a fur cap, so maybe I could do it. And then at 1 o'clock, we will have all of the rest of the meetings, middle campus in the AP building. And the 1 o'clock session is primarily for faculty, but anybody can attend. And it is, I think of all of these things as important, really, really important, but this is about AI. And we've talked about the ERP implementation. We've talked about the EL. What we haven't talked about is this thing that's happening to the entire globe, and that is artificial intelligence. And Jason Eddington and Brennan Engel are two of the folks on this campus who know the most about AI, and they're going to give us a little bit of information. We started conversation last Monster Symposium. We'll continue it now, and it changes at the speed of light. So please join us from 1 to 2. Then the rest of the afternoon will be for you to prepare for students. Tomorrow morning, we will start bright and early at 9 a.m. and all of the sessions tomorrow, and there are 3 back-to-back, and they will all be in the AP building. These are all in room 118. And I sent out a reminder schedule to each of you yesterday First, at 9 a.m., we'll have a session on open education resources. And then at 10, will be mining program data. So all of those of you who produce program portfolios, you'll want to attend that. And then from 11 to 11:50, Craig Hackett and I will talk all things assessment and the new AJEC. And then we are going to have a fun game kind of session like we did last semester from noon to 1 that will just be a kind of bring your own lunch and have fun. And Craig, that is Frisbee golf. What's it called? Disc golf. Disc golf. And that's going to be in the gym probably because it's so cold or nearby. So please, that's for faculty and staff. And it was so much fun last year to do the cornhole. Yeah. And I did really well, so I had a lot of fun. And then Thursday from 9 to 3, depending on how much time is needed, will be for invited faculty. So your deans have invited you specifically, and that is going to be a work session that has to do with the AJEC implementation. So you will have basically your afternoons of each of these days to get ready for classes. So with that, what's going to happen right now is that we want to be able to get everybody their t-shirts, and to do this in the most organized fashion possible. The deans and I are going to aid Lori Dugan. Where's Lori? Okay, Lori is going to direct us in order to get those t-shirts. So my deans are going to come up. We've got boxes of t-shirts down here that are by sizes. We're going to put them up on the stage, and then a dean is going to stand by each box. And then as directed, you will come up, go to the box that has your size, get your t-shirt, then you'll go and get your box lunch. In where the box lunches are, you will get your recruitment packet, and then you'll be able to go and eat your lunch. So in order to do this in the most efficient way possible, we're going to start on this side of the room. And those of you in the gray, who are sitting in the gray chairs, get to go first. And once you're all done, then we'll go to the blue chairs. Once you're all done, then we'll go to the gray chairs over here. So Lori's showing you what size. Come up, get your size t-shirt, lunch, and then 1 o'clock back in AP 118.